In contrast to a certain superpowers don't ask, don't tell policy towards gays in the military, the Israeli Defense Forces have adopted a liberal approach. Tomer Azaria was a combat soldier in the artillery corps and still serves in the military reserves.
אף אחד לא דיבר איתי על זה, אף אחד לא שאל אותי על זה. ממה שאני מכיר, נטייה מינית זה לא משהו שהוא בעייתי. אני חושב שהצבא פשוט הגיע לנקודה שהוא אומר, so what? אז יש הומואים בצה"ל. אז מה?
Israel has come a long way since 1993, when an Israeli military officer testified before the parliament claiming that his rank and security clearance were revoked because of his sexual identity.
I had to go to the military and I was placed in what was then highly secretive place. Obviously I didn't tell anyone because it was considered such a taboo that I realized immediately I have to be in the closet, otherwise I will be harmed. Then indeed in 1982, during a routine security checkup, I was found out that I was living with another man in my apartment and I was immediately discharged. That was the law in Israel. Anyone who was suspected of being gay cannot handle anything to do with the Israeli security.
After being thrown out of the army, Evan ignited a public campaign for recognition of gays in the military, which eventually led to a law against discrimination of gays in the Israeli Defense Forces.
The agreement we reached changed completely the way the Israeli army treats gays. It started with a very important section which I insisted on it. It says that Israel Defense Forces will not discriminate in induction, promotion, or placement of gay officers and soldiers. The chief of staff then, Ehud Barak, signed it and it was ratified by the Knesset and it became a law.
The military's acceptance of gays opened the door for others in the Israeli society to be more liberal towards sexual orientations.
In Israel, the military is playing a much bigger role because everyone has to go to the military. So when it changed its ruling about gays, then other government offices followed. The police, the security services. And it started a chain effect that changed the Israeli attitude towards gay completely.
Once it comes to the combat culture, because it's such a macho culture, it's not easy for people to come out.
Dani Kaplan has interviewed hundreds of gays who used to be combat soldiers. He says that life in the army training bases does not always follow policy.
There is all the time discrimination in the sense that the culture is homophobic. I think people don't realize that policy is a symbol for something, but the reality in the culture is what really matters. And I realized people didn't even know what the policies were. People did know that being gay is not something that you come out and say in the military, in combat units especially. And it's still the case that most combat soldiers in Israel do not come out. That's what I sense from what I speak with people today.
תראו, הומופוביה קיימת. ברגע שאנשים גילו את זה בשנייה הראשונה, אז הם אמרו, וואו, ויש כאילו על מה לדבר, וברגע שאני לא שיתפתי עם זה פעולה, ולא הפכתי את זה למין נושא כזה נורא מיוחד שצריך לדבר עליו, אלא זה היה, בסך הכל יש בחור הומו בפלוגה, זה בסך הכל זה, אז זה הפך להיות בסך הכל זה, וזה בכלל לא רלוונטי לאף אחד.
Although he has been socially accepted, Azaria admits that the culture within the combat units could be intimidating for a young homosexual.
סגרת הצבאית עם אווירה הרבה יותר מצ'ואיסטית. מדברים הרבה על סקס, אבל שום דבר לא נעשה. מדברים על, הוא מדבר על זה שהוא היה עם זאתי, והוא היה עם זאתי, וזה עשה את זאתי, וזה היה עם זאת. מספיק שאתה תהיה לא חלק מזה, אז אתה כבר לא חלק מהקבוצה.
These days, when he's not doing reserve service, Azaria volunteers as a guide, counseling young gays who are before their military service. I asked him whether he recommends other gays to come out to their army units.
זה נורא אינדיבידואלי, מאוד. אם אני מרגיש ויודע ומכיר את הבן אדם מאוד מאוד טוב ויודע שהבן אדם הזה מספיק חזק כדי להתמודד עם ההשלכות, אני אומר שיעשה מה שהוא מרגיש בנוח אחרי שהוא מכיר את האנשים. הצבא שלנו מורכב מהרבה מאוד אנשים שמקבלים נטייה מינית והרבה מאוד אנשים שלא מקבלים ולא מכבדים ולא מוכנים לשמוע על דבר כזה. ובגלל שהמצב הוא כזה, אז זה נורא תלוי לאיזה מקום אתה נופל ומאיזה מקום אתה מגיע ואיזה מטען אתה מגיע. ואם אתה מוכן להיות שגריר או לא מוכן להיות שגריר.
Azaria was called to serve during Israel's recent wars in Lebanon and Gaza. He is just one of a growing number of openly gay soldiers in one of the busiest militaries in the world.